Welcome to one of the most watched and listened to podcasts dealing with addiction and recovery, Odyssey House Journals. I'm Randall Carlisle, my co-host Nicole Slack, our guest today is Zach. And I've had a lot of people ask me who have watched the podcast, because we have a lot of people who do, saying, do you handpick these people to come and be your guest? And I can see why people might suspect that, because it always seems like our guests have a really compelling story and then an inspiring story about success.
But don't most people in recovery represent an inspiring story?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I can tell you honestly that very few of the guests we have do I know anything about them. I mean, and we learned the same time, and Zach was recommended by a friend of a friend who said you had a really good story to tell, and I trusted that person, and so that's why you're here, Zach.
So no pressure.
Yeah. No, you better have a damn good story here.
Sounds like there's a little bit of pressure, but I think it's compelling. I think that my story is it's a lot of heartache for sure.
How did it all begin?
So I grew up bouncing around all over, from Florida to Louisiana to Utah to Washington to Nevada to back to Louisiana, back to Utah. I didn't really have a father figure. My dad, he was around, but he would leave for sometimes 4 or 5 years at a time. We wouldn't know if he was dead, alive. We didn't know much about him. My mom, she had boyfriends in her life that abused her, abused us. So, me and my brother kind of bound together, and we went through life together. My mom worked 3 jobs, trying to support 2 kids. I played baseball as a kid. I was actually like a really good kid. I fought and stuff like that because I didn't grow up in the best of neighborhoods with a single mom working 3 jobs. What can you do? So once I got out of baseball, my mom's boyfriend took us out of baseball. I took a turn for the worst. Got involved with gangs. I was probably about 12 or 13 years old, and that's when it all began. I caught my first charge when I was 11. I stole a purse out of a locker where I found the key on the ground, and then went and spent the money on candy. That's how young I was.
You should have kept spending your money on candy.
Yeah. I used marijuana up until I was, I don't know. I started going in and out of the juvenile system at about 13, 14 years old, from distribution to aggravated robbery, aggravated kidnapping. It was something that wasn't meant to be that, but then that's what it turned out to be. So I did time in Genesis when I was really young. I got out, wasn't out 6 months, got another charge for assault. At about, I don't know, maybe 21, I was introduced to Oxycontin. Everyone knows that story. I ended up seeing a crooked doctor. The doctor was prescribing us a ridiculously amount of pills, and there was a bunch of me and my buddies going through them. And when he was arrested, I started getting sick, and my cousin introduced me to heroin. I did heroin for, I want to say, like 17 straight years. The only thing that ever stopped me was getting locked up. And I spent most of my adult life in and out of systems. I've been in jail in Louisiana. I've been in jail in Nevada. I've been to prison here. I've been to prison in Oregon. I actually just got done doing almost 5 years for
here.
No, in a federal prison. I'm still on federal and state parole as we speak. I ended up working for the cartel. I started moving things, and I got caught up in a lifestyle that I liked, but I didn't like. Once I got back to Louisiana to meet my dad and, get to know him, I stayed there for quite a few years with him and got to know him. And then when he died, I didn't know how to take it. I was the only one there. I didn't have any family around, and I watched him go from perfectly okay to dead within 4 months. And so I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know how to cope with that the positive way. I didn't even talk about it. That was in 2017, and I didn't even talk about it up until a year ago. I mean, not to my mom, not to my brother, not to anybody, because I still didn't know how to deal with the emotion. So as soon as he died, I turned myself in because I promised him that I'd get all my stuff taken care of. So I turned myself into jail the day after he died. I did my time in Louisiana. I came to Utah. I turned myself into Utah. Well, they let me out with nothing. I was off the paper and everything. So I was like, wow, like I'm free for the first time in like 20 years. I'm free. And, but I didn't have anything. I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. And I reverted back to selling drugs to maintain my life. And everyone knows you go from using drugs and selling drugs to just using drugs. It got really bad. I was bad off. I stole from my family. I hurt pretty much anybody that gave any type of care about me. And I'm still fighting for these relationships now. My sister, we've said 100 words to each other in 10 years, probably, and she says, she's like, if I know that he's going to try and I can see him doing better, then I'll give him a chance. But we've all heard this song and dance from him before.
Which is true.
Which is very true. And I'm very good at manipulating. Let's just say that. I was very good at manipulating people. It's something that I work on now. Being in Odyssey House has taught me a lot about myself. It taught me that emotions are a good thing, I was a very violent person for a long time. I don't know how to put this. I wasn't angry. I was just violent. Everything that I did resorted back to a violent state. And that's not the way life is. Like, you should be able to talk to people and talk about these issues. And I'd never even had a conversation with my mom up until this time I got out of prison. And we had a 2-hour conversation. And I was like, Mom, you guys tend to think that I chose drugs over my family, but I chose drugs over everything. My own well-being. And it was the first time I ever had a conversation with her that she understood my addiction. When I got out of prison, when I was in prison, I did Conquest. I did RDAP. I did drug education. I did anything I could to try to better my life. When I got out of prison, I was doing great. I had a job with Geneva Rock and Precast. I had a place. I bought cars, and then I was stupid enough to buy a motorcycle. I was hit on my motorcycle. They reconstructed my entire shoulder. 5 ribs were broken in the front. 5 ribs were broken in the back. I'm still fighting it today. Like, this just happened 6 months ago.
You look fine.
Thank you. There's a scar that goes from here all the way over, and it's all metal now. And that's what caused my relapse this time. It started with pain pills, and I remember my mom like, honey, I'm scared, and then I was still in pain. I mean, I was in so much pain I couldn't even use the bathroom without crying. I couldn't wash my body. I couldn't sleep for more than about 30 minutes at a time. The doctor decided that, he wasn't going to give me any more painkillers. So being a heroin addict, I said, okay, that's fine. You know,
I know how to deal with this.
Well, I started getting high and I was hustling again. And my best friend, I call him my brother, he came into my room and he's like, dude, you're messing up. And I was like, yeah, but what am I supposed to do if I go to my parole officer? You know, they're just going to send me back to prison. And I was scared. So I put it off and I put it off. And then finally I got the courage to go into my parole officer. And I looked at her and I was like, look, I've been getting high. She's like, wow, well, thank you for being honest. I would like you to choose. You can either go to a halfway house to clean up or you can go to Odyssey House. And I chose Odyssey House. I've never been to a treatment center in my life.
This is your first time.
It's my first time ever. They always locked me up. Once you have been through that system, there's no more programs before prison type deal. They lock you up. I've actually went in front of a judge and told him, like, if you can't help me, then I'm just going to run again. And he was like, well, we'll deal with that when we cross it. I was right here at the 4th South building. I was baffled that I was asking him for help and nothing. I don't know why for so long I chose drugs. I think I numbed a lot of pain because, like, my mom's boyfriends were just pieces of crap. I mean, I watched my mom abused my whole life, and I always thought she deserved better, you know? And then once I started hanging out with the wrong people, at that point I had to prove myself. I grew up with a lot of black people that's who my gang is from, and I was one of the only white people, so I had to do 10 times more than everyone else to prove my loyalty, to prove that I was willing to do this. And so I think I never learned how to love myself or forgive myself for that matter. This is something that I'm just learning now. I turned 39 in 2 weeks, and I mean, it's hard to change something that you've done for 20 years. It's hard to change those behaviors. I've been reading books on self-love and forgiveness because even though my family's forgiven me, I haven't forgiven myself, which is, if anybody knows, that's 90% of the battle.
Still working on it.
Yeah, it's 90% of the battle because if you don't forgive yourself, you're never going to move past it.
Are you getting closer to forgiving yourself and loving yourself?
I'm learning to. Let's put it that way. I think it's still the things that I did. Like I have to get out and make amends for those. I still have to go to those people and be able to look them in the face and tell them that I'm sorry. You know, for all of the crap that I pulled, all of the long nights. I mean, my mom used to tell me whenever her phone would ring in the middle of the night, she'd be like, is he dead? My mom didn't even check hospitals. She would check jails and prisons for me. You know, she's such a wonderful woman. She always thought that, like, oh, if I would have raised you guys better, you wouldn't have turned out this way. And I hate hearing that because my brother's perfect. He's never really been in trouble. I guess there's no thing as perfect at all. He's got a family. He's what I consider a man. So I look up to him. I remember talking to him and he was like, I just want my little brother back. So when we read these letters, oh man, those were rough for me.
Describe it for people watching. May not be a program, but this is one of the hardest things that people do.
Yes.
Impact letters.
Yeah, the impact letters.
Describe it.
There are 5 of them. So I personally chose my mom, my brother, my sister, my nephew, and my best friend. These are letters to put you in the shoes of the person, to show them their feelings, like how they felt during your addiction, what you did to them, how it affected them. I remember the one from my best friend. I broke into his house and I stole a camera, not thinking anything of it. Later on, he's like, man, I would have rather had you steal the gun than the camera, because the camera, I didn't know, but it had SD cards in it from birthdays, from her birthdays. So that's like something that they can never get back. And I didn't talk to him for a long time. And I showed up at his house one day, and he was like, I've forgiven you a long time ago. But it's those kind of letters. I broke down. Let's just be honest. I broke down in the class. I don't know many people that can.
Yeah. It's always a sob session in disco.
You have to share those letters with your peers.
Yes.
And get feedback.
Well,
I was lucky enough to only have 3 peers in there, so I kind of lucked out on that end. But my therapist is Sean. Sean is a great person. I left him speechless, and that's, if you know Sean, you do.
He's rarely speechless.
Very rarely, and he was like, these did exactly what I wanted them to do, because they don't want them to be a hate letter. That's different than a letter that stings. He's like, I want you to put yourself in their position so that you feel their hurt, you feel all the things that you caused, so that you don't ever want to cause that again.
Did you give the impact letters to those people?
Not yet. I'm going to read them to them myself. I feel like I should read them, because to me that shows like an understanding. Just because I wrote them don't mean nothing. But if I can read them and show them the emotion that I have behind them, I think that would, make them understand a little bit more that I really am sorry.
It's a lot of healing.
Yeah. And I've spent most of my life in and out of jails and prisons, just always causing trouble. I've always caused trouble. And still don't know why. I still don't know why. Something that I battle with, and sometimes I wonder if it was because my dad wasn't there. And I told him when he was dying, I was like, I did a lot of this to make you proud, because my dad was, he was in and out of prison. So I thought that would make him proud for me to be like him. And he's like, dude, it'd make me prouder if you were nothing like me.
Sure.
Yeah. And that was hard to deal with, because I was like, man, I thought you'd be proud that I was like this. And no, now I see the difference,
He'd be proud now.
I hope so.
Especially, what really impressed me with what I heard from you was that right after he died, you started to clean up your life.
I tried to. And I did it. I was good for a while. And then, once I was in, sleeping on couches and stuff, that's when I reverted back to my old ways. So I'm learning coping skills. Boredom is a big one for me. The idle hands of the devil's playground type deal.
It's the idle brain.
Yeah.
That's what gets me. If you're bored, you're alone. It's like, I think I'll do something.
I read a quote the other day that said, boredom is a sign of an unimaginative mind, which is true, because if you're bored, you're not exhausting all your resources. There's always something to do. We live in a beautiful place. Like, Utah has so much to do, and it's like, why would I always choose to go back to this? I've loved sports. My biggest thing is I want to help people. So I really am looking into a CPSS thing to help either individuals, probably both, but individuals coming out of prison, to help them get on their feet, because I understand what it's like to walk out. I didn't even have a pair of socks when I got out of prison. They had to give me clothes to leave prison in. I had nothing. I didn't have even technically the clothes on my back. And somebody took me in, and that's when I started trying something different. I got a good job, but when I got my rec, it all reverted back. So these are the things that I'm working on is, if I'm put in this situation again, how can I deal with it in a better way? I do have to have my other shoulder worked on. So this is something that I think about. So I was like, okay, well, what I could do is stay with somebody like my mom or my brother and have them give me the pills, to where I would have to ask them, and then they could be like, no, you don't need one right now. Wait for a while. But I want to also help children. Gang intervention is a big thing for me. I mean, as you can see, I'm covered in tattoos.
And we've heard from a lot of the people that we've had on podcasts that it all starts around like 12 or 13, which is what, junior high.
Yeah,
Right.
I was in elementary school. I was in sixth grade, I think.
And there was a gang.
Yeah, so I hung out with older people.
Okay.
But it was like, so my best friend's brother was involved in a gang, and then we kind of just, tagged along with him. And then, at first it was little things like, oh, here, hold this bag of weed, or here, run this down the street for us. We'll give you $20. It was little things that started out like that. And then once, you get your feet wet and stuff, then it started getting into serious things. Like I said, I mean, I was committing robberies at 14 years old, and it
Armed robberies?
armed robberies. I've been convicted of some of them.
Jeez.
So it was something. The only reason that I wasn't charged as an adult at the time is because I was too young. I was only 15. The three other people that were involved in this were all sent to prison. One did 10, the other two did 7. So, I mean, I lucked out in that one. And I kind of wish that I would have learned that prison isn't fun. It's not fun. But now I feel that I'm institutionalized to a point to where it doesn't bother me to be by myself anymore. But I guess that's a good thing, because if you're not okay with yourself, you're never going to be okay with life. You got to be okay with who you are. But I also had to learn how to not seclude myself, learning to speak about my problems, because I'm one of them people that, I look at a problem and I just tuck it away. I tuck it away. And then all of a sudden, boom, it blows up. And that's not the way to go. There's some problems that you do need to, tuck away, think about. But I never talked about them. Never. I just didn't talk about them.
Is that how you're battling your aggression?
What do you mean?
You said you're aggressive?
I was. Now I think I've learned to deal with it in the proper way, to voice my opinion. Sometimes it comes across that and I don't know if I can say it, an a-hole, but I don't have a filter. Sometimes I don't think before I say things. But now I'm thinking okay, what am I going to do? Is this going to get me through life? No, it's just going to cause me problems my whole life. And my mom's been telling me this for 15 years, and she's probably going to watch this and be like, I told him.
I've told him that all day. He never listened to me.
I remember I got her a little plaque right before I got in here that says, see, your mother does know everything. I think that's what it says. Something like that, along the lines of, your parents saying, I know everything. I've tried it all. And I love my mom to death. She's the sweetest woman, and she sticks behind me 100%. That woman is the biggest cheerleader I've ever had in my life.
Through all the crap that you've
Through
done.
all of it. And it's crazy to think that a woman would stick behind somebody that would do all of the horrible things that I would do. I put her in positions that, if I owed somebody money, she sometimes had to pay these people off so that I wouldn't get hurt, or, because I didn't care. I was like, I don't care. They can do whatever they want. I mean, whatever happens, happens. And that scared her because she knew that I was serious. I didn't care for the longest time whether I lived or died. I didn't care. That's a hard thing to come to terms with, to know that you didn't care about your life. I don't have any kids. Never been married, and I'm almost 40. So I look at it now and I'm like, maybe the Lord was saving me from a lot of hard times, or raising a child without a dad, because I didn't care. I was selfish. And so now I think of it like, okay, if I had a kid now, where would I be? I'd be right there. I'd be coaching his baseball games. I'd be putting him in football, and I would never allow him to love something as much as I loved baseball and let him walk away from it or not put him in it. That was what killed my whole dream. Like, that was my dream. And I was good enough. I probably could have played in the major leagues.
Really?
I was that good. Yeah.
Well,
I played on 3 different teams at one time. I'll play for the softball team this year. I will.
that's sober softball,
Yeah.
folks.
And I can't wait for it. I can't wait. I think
It's coming up.
it is. It is.
Are you going to do Odyssey outpatient?
I was in Odyssey outpatient before this. So I went from the lowest grade of outpatient that you can get, the
GOP or expedition?
expedition. I went from expedition to IOP to inpatient. And now I want to go back.
You did it backwards.
Yeah. And I want to finish it so that I can look at people that are in my and be like, it can be done.
Well, IOP does softball too.
They do, huh?
They do.
I was in Redwood is where I was.
So you've already done it.
Yeah.
I love that you went backwards.
Yeah. And so
I've never heard somebody doing it that way.
I haven't either. Good
Going
job.
back and then going back.
I mean, but then it's to me, that's a learning thing. So I could look at these people and be like, look, if you don't, I did it. So, I'm probably one of the most hard-headed people in the world. But I learned things in here because you won't learn everything, but you're going to learn things. But you got to choose what you want to learn, what you want to deal with. Sean has helped me deal with a lot of trauma, a lot of things. I actually almost had to move a house one time. And I told Sean, I was like, I'm not going to do this. Like, I've already moved counselors a couple of times, and I've learned to trust you. So I learned to open up to you, and I'm not going to do it with another person. And Sean fought for me to stay at Lighthouse. And I told him, I was like, you will not regret this. And since that day, I have went from a compass border, which is going back to the first, and I worked all my way up, all the way back up to almost finishing it. So I know that it can be done. It's all willpower. I want something better for my life. I deserve something better for my life.
Yes, you do.
And I just never believed that up until recently. Now I believe it. I wholeheartedly believe that. So it was a hard term to come to terms with. I still kind of fumbled with it at the beginning, but now I'm like, I'm actually a pretty all right person to be around.
Yes, you are.
I just look scary, People think I'm intimidating.
If you're just listening and not watching, he's a big guy. So, even with a bum shoulder, I wouldn't want to deal with you. So I appreciate. We're almost out of time. I appreciate your honesty. You said you were a manipulator, but you're a really good speaker. And
Thank you.
And you've shared a lot of deep thoughts that you've had, and you know that a whole bunch of strangers are watching or listening. You want to say hi to your mom?
Yeah, she wants to watch this. I just don't know how to let her watch it.
It'll come out in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll let you know.
Okay.
So say
Hi, Mom.
thanks for watching, Mom.
Yeah, she will.
Thank you very much for being a guest.
Thank you, guys.
You're a wonderful guest.
I appreciate it.
And thank you for watching or listening to another edition of Odyssey House Journals.